Hello, my name is Tom and I'm the minister of Scunthorpe Baptist Church and will soon be the lead pastor of Connect Church. And part of these little interviews we're doing is to kind of explore some of that, and we're going to try and introduce you to some of the teams and key people involved in Connect Church as that happens later this year. And the first person who we're going to introduce you to probably needs no introduction to many of you. It's Fiona Kirby-Smith, who I have known, I think, for more than half of my life, which is a blessing. And Fiona has, no, it is honestly, Fiona has been on team at Scunthorpe Baptist Church for a good few years. She might tell you a little bit about that in a few minutes, and has a key role to play in Connect Church because Fiona, with Paul, her husband, will be leading our location, Connect Church Crosby. So that's what we're going to talk a bit about today. But first, Fiona, hello. Tell us a little bit about yourself first. Introduce us to Fiona Kirby-Smith.
Could be a long time. It's probably better getting someone else to do that. It's probably safer. But I'm Fiona Kirby-Smith. Not always been. I am married to Paul, a wonderful South African man who we've been married for 6 years this year, which is a very long time. I am massively proud to be born and bred in Scunthorpe. I even have a cup to say that it's my favourite place. So I've lived here my whole life, apart from a little stint I did a year away in Offerton in Stockport, which has shaped really a lot of what we'll talk about later in terms of how we live and why we live the way that we do. I am the eldest of 5 siblings. And auntie to some of the best kids on the planet. They are incredible. And we live in Crosby in Scunthorpe, which we'll talk again a little bit about later. But I just wanted to, and it's easy to just introduce kind of the roles or the titles or whatever you have. But something that I think makes me up really as a person, and I think Tom can testify to this, the fact that we've known each other so long is a bit weird. But actually, one of the massive passions of my life is authenticity, is what you see is what you get, and people being able to be real and honest about who they are, but about what their passions are, and being principled in the stuff that we believe in. If God said it, if it's true, then that's what it is, and that's how we go. And so it's got me into all sorts of trouble and out of all sorts of trouble over the years. But me and Paul are both very, I mean, you could just say it's stubborn, but it sounds nicer if we say principled. I particularly am super passionate about people who may have been passed off or passed over or are on the margins of society, whatever that means. Being able to connect with God in a real dynamic way for their life, to know that the God of the universe doesn't just exist on Sundays, he exists every day, and he wants to meet with them all of the time. So that is part of what I think is my life's purpose. And the other part of that is really equipping and resourcing and firing the church up to go out and to do that, to go out to their places, to their people, to their world, and to share the gospel. So in a nutshell, that's who I am.
That was very good. I've never known you be that succinct in all the years that we've known each other. I was settling in for a good half an hour there, so you've done well to succinctly say all that. Well done. And all of that was true. I can definitely say that for sure. So I mentioned that you and Paul and a team of people are going to be leading Connect Church Crosby, which sounds like something we're going to start in the future, but actually something that we really started years ago, even though we maybe never knew it was going to be Connect Church Crosby. You mentioned that you and Paul live in Crosby. That was a very intentional decision a good few years ago. So tell us about that, how you ended up in Crosby, and then just tell us a bit about Crosby. Some people watching this will live in Crosby, and some people will live in Scunthorpe. Some people won't live in either of those places. So tell us about Crosby, what makes it unique and special to you.
Yeah, okay. So in 2012, I went to Glow Church in Offerton, which is amazing. You should check them out.
8 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my, I'm so old.
I know. I know you are. So we went to, it ended up being me and Paul, but we went together then. That is a whole different story. And while we were there, just, I think, started to have this real passion to come back to Scunthorpe. I described it at the time as like this supernatural love for this place. And so we moved back in 2013. And so October the 4th, it was 2013, I moved into a little 2 up, 2 down in Crosby, and and had this moment of like, oh great, where do we go from here? Scunthorpe Baptist Church had generously started to support me and had released me we joke that they paid me never to go to the church, but it was kind of Tom's face, it was kind of that, go and see what God is doing there, ride that wave, and then we'll see how we can resource that. And so that's what we did. And over time, lots of different people have been part of that story and part of that journey, but we just turned up and wanted to see what God was doing and how we might join in with that. There was no grand plan, there was no structure, apart from to pray and to love God and to love the people of Crosby, to serve well, and to understand that we aren't the ones coming in with all of the knowledge. There was a lot of local people. We were the foreigner in that sense in this place. And so learning what it means to be part of this community, which now I think if you cut us open alongside Jesus, Crosby would be what you would find in the middle. And so we've done that over the last 6 years, just worked out what that meant and what that might look like. And over the time, we never wanted to start things. We didn't want to do something that was competition, because we wanted to be the church, and part of being the church is, I think, the foundation of establishing the kingdom is unity. And so how can we be in unity, allow everyone to do what they do and support each other in that without compromising ourselves and all them. And so that's what we did. And we started a number of things that we thought were gaps in the community, and we support a number of things that happen, just championing and cheering on. So we began Core Youth, and we have quite a loose-handed way of starting things, it would seem. So we started Core Youth November the 5th, 2015, and during that time we were actually in South Africa on a delayed honeymoon. So when I say we, that is a very loose we. It was an amazing team who did that. And that still goes, and we have seen great things come from that. We've done lots of things to work out how we do family and community, because people who know Crosby will know it is massively diverse as a community. There are people from all over the world who live here. It's probably the most diverse part of Scunthorpe. And but alongside that, there are people who have been living in Crosby for multiple generations, and in some cases multiple generations of people living on the same street. My grandma lives here and my mum lives there, and my kids go to local school, and I love that. There's a real community aspect of it, but there is also smaller little communities that make up the whole. And I think actually in terms of integration of those, young people are really leading the way in this community. Some of our young people who perhaps maybe struggle academically can speak 3 or 4 different languages because their friends do, which is mischief on a youth night when you're trying to understand what's going on, but actually amazing, and really leading the way in terms of servant-hearted leadership, what it means to turn up and to serve for the glory of God. And I love seeing that. So so we started a few things, Core Youth being kind of the longest one, little gatherings at our house, and the other huge thing I guess we started was Core Kids, to meet really local needs, but a way of like engaging and raising up a generation in this community. We're so aware that anything that happens has to last way beyond us. It has to multiply beyond who we are. And so I think to do that, we decided to go straight to the source to literally help raise a generation. Sorry, the dog's barking in the background. And so we've partnered with things like the Crosby One Centre, which started off as just as hiring space, but now I'm a trustee there. Paul actually manages the centre. St George's Church have been such an incredible source of support and unity. Our food bank project is mainly run by St George's people, and I just oversee that. So we do lots of things within the community that I think are the hands and feet of Jesus, sharing light and love and life in a way that is God honouring and raises up people. We never want to be the church who does projects and sees things and people as projects. We want to be about raising up people and understanding that everyone has value and everyone can add value. And so really owning our responsibility to create a space where that can happen. Yeah. And that's what we've tried to do in Crosby. And we live and breathe what we're about. We don't go home away from it. We live right in the middle of it. Everyone knows where we live. Yeah. And we love that. We love walking home and seeing the kids on their way home from school and showing us like their carrier bag full of merits they've got this term, and being able to drop food off at families, and it not be about the church doing something, but it being about their pastors in their mind. The vicar of Crosby, they may have, some people may have called me, just dropping off some food, like, and being able to pray with people and really genuinely seeing a difference, like literally on the front line of our community. So I love it, and we're seeing transformation through it. Real partnerships and friendships being built. Like, we go for tea with the local family workers from the local schools because they're some of our best friends. Like, we've got Zoom meetings with them I say meetings with them just to catch up. Like, we are to me being the church what it's meant to be in the middle of everything, like the yeast being moulded through all that is part of this community. Actually, the kingdom is being weaved into everything, and I love that.
Yeah, Crosby is like a beautifully honest place, isn't it? Like, it's
absolutely
like it's not trying to be anything other than Crosby, and that's beautiful.
Exactly.
And you won't say these things, but like, just picking up on a couple of things you said there. One, like, people can see already, and I can vouch for this fully, like you and Paul and the team there, the integrity of what you're saying. So without noticing it there, you poured out loads of kind of principles about multiplication, about planting, about kind of building community, and you throw those things in quite passively, but I know that's something you guys work super hard on, like, and the integrity is that you live them out entirely. That is a massive thing. But then that you also make it sound like it kind of just happened, and I know there's a lot more. We always caveat all that stuff with, it's all by the grace of God and the Spirit of God at work in Crosby. We've seen that massively. But there is, I'm saying on your behalf, a huge amount of intentionality that's gone into that over the years.
Absolutely.
Steps to that over those 8 years. And now I guess we're at a point where it can seem like we're saying, oh, we're planting in Crosby and Paul and Fiona are going to lead it because they live there. But actually, it's really just the next step in a journey that we did plan a little bit and God has taken us on the way. So maybe the obvious next thing would be, what you've played a key part in the Connect Church vision, not just for Crosby, but for the whole thing. So maybe you could just share a little bit about your thoughts about Connect Church, the vision, but also what that looks like for Crosby, the next step in the Crosby journey.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think you're right. And one of the things that me and Paul talk about, just going back to the God has been, absolutely, we say this all the time, God is kind, and he has been very kind to us, but actually it's high cost, and which is why maybe some people come and some people stay as part of the team and some people don't. Like, it's very high cost because it's everything that you're about. It's not just attending one thing a week and then going home and living your life, but it's everything. But isn't that what being a disciple is meant to be? Everything, all of who you are, all of the time, living, breathing examples of what it means to know and love the Lord. And so, so it is high cost, absolutely. But it's hard graft. We would never, ever hide from that. But the fruit is much and many and a variety and plenty. And we love a small victory around here, and so and we've seen many of them. And I think for me, that's one of the things that excites me about Connect Church is just the variety of what the fruit might look like. We're not trying to churn out the same thing over and over again. It's actually meant to be unique. It's meant to be of its own. It's meant to be beautiful, and it's meant to be contextual. And one of our frustrations, I guess, over the years has just been that a mile down the road from where we live is where the main church building is, but that doesn't translate well here. Like, that isn't what effective church looks like here, but it is down the road, and that's amazing. So what actually does it look like in each of the contexts of all of the places that Connect Church might be in the future? And I've been praying loads actually the last few weeks about Connect Church, particularly because obviously we were meant to launch a couple of weekends ago, but thinking about what does it mean, not just to me, but actually to God. And I keep getting this picture of like, I don't think we've ever been closer to the heartbeat of God. Right. Because the heartbeat of us as Connect Church is multiplication, is to grow and to multiply. And that has been God's heartbeat since the very beginning of time. He's never had a different plan. It has been to go forth and multiply, and to go forth and tell all of the world, go multiply your faith, go multiply what it means to be good news to people. Absolutely. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about what it means to live in a rhythm of life that we're always looking to see what God is doing and to birth a new thing. Not just to sustain, not just to maintain, but to actually grow fresh new things of the kingdom. And it doesn't mean we chuck out the old. It means that we learn from that and we take the richness from that. I know that our fruit in Crosby mainly has come from years and years of people praying and breaking ground in this area for us. And so we just get to be the ones that see this bit of the fruit. My prayer is that in 10 years' time, it's somebody else who is multiplied from us who gets to see the fruit of these days, who gets to see the fruit of this part of what we do. And so for me, multiplication would be the thing, to see how people who are now part of our gatherings at the moment, or part of our community now, will be the next Connect group leaders. When we multiply our Connect groups, will be the next leaders of core youth and core kids, and they will be Indigenous leaders from this community. And we're seeing that in some of our young people, and you can probably testify to this, Tom, but turning up 8 a.m, serving all day in their school holidays when we don't even want to be getting out of bed, let alone a teenager who's working against all their hormones. And that is what I think gives me a passion and really fires me up, is that, and they don't just get to do that down the road somewhere else. They get to do that here in their place. Right. They get to see the kingdom of God work here. And what does that look like for the next location and the next person and the next place? So I think those are a couple of the things that really do, get me fired up and excited. And Crosby has always been about being the family of God. Ultimately, that's what we are, bottom line. But living out the mission of God, to share good news, to tell people of the kingdom, to bring hope to people in despair, to feed the hungry. You will know when we launched all those years ago in the hall of Holy Souls Church, we talked about this Isaiah 58 vision of going and supporting people who are hungry and breaking chains that hold people, and all of the things that combined people, seeing the kingdom of God break those down. And I think Connect Church says to people, come and be part of this, connect with us, connect with God, connect with other people, so that you can go and make disciples of your place, of your workplace, of your home, of your neighborhood, of your street, whatever that looks like. But go and switch out the word nation for your place. What does that look like? And so, that's what excites me, is seeing the church be who she's meant to be.
That's amazing. While you were saying that, excuse me, I was just thinking about some of the people who we sort of know in and around Crosby, like people who I've got to know over the years and stuff. And I mean this in a positive way. there's some of them who I could never imagine like training for ministry. Like I just couldn't picture them going off to college, like doing all that stuff. But I can see them leading church, building church, being church. And actually, like that's more of a reflection that the system of training church leaders is broken, not that people needing to train is, as you know, as you're going through it right now. But actually, part of the vision for Connect Church is that some of those people who are part of Core Youth right now are going to plant churches, lead churches, and we're not going to send them off to train to do that. We're just going to train them in the community, for the community, give them the Bible and the Holy Spirit and a community that's safe but also challenging. And who knows so someone could be watching this right now who's going to lead a Connect Church location in the future. Wow. That's awesome. That's what we want to see happen.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about, you mentioned it again a little bit in there, you talked about how we want to have the uniqueness in the different locations. Even a mile down the road can be completely different, particularly in a place like North Lincolnshire, where a mile from us is you and then another mile you're in like middle of nowhere rural village. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about, in your little square, what Connect Church Crosby, what kind of vision and dream you've got for Connect Church Crosby. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay. Look, I think it looks like a lot of food. That's how it's looked over the years. Lots of people are. I think one of the things that we talk about a lot, and I think actually it's Mark Mellowish from New Wine who I heard this from, but he said years ago, like if you don't eat, don't meet. And that's been true for us. I mean, the lockdown season has been so difficult for me in that my dining room table is basically redundant. And that breaks my heart because I think we're meant to gather around tables and we're meant to share genuine life together. And so it looks like family and how we create rhythms and systems by which we operate as family. So we are going to operate on a community-wide rhythm, basically. So Sunday afternoons we gather, and we actually did some gatherings before we had to lock down. We were gathering for Alpha under the banner of Core, which is what we've been known for years. But and that was actually beautiful, so lovely. We'd gather, we'd have some food together, we'd learn about Jesus, and we'd have some of the most beautiful ministry times just receiving from God. And it was really lovely. And then Tuesday evenings will be our Connect group evening, because that fits within the rhythm of and the life of the overall church. We don't want to make Crosby is not a branch on its own. It never has been. The point of our vision for the whole time is that we are part of something bigger, because it's so easy to move into an urban area to do mission, to build church, and it not ever connect to anything else. And we've always been very intentional about remaining connected. And so so that follows the rhythm of Connect Church overall, hopefully. And then we do a few things in the week by which we gather with people, and they are all discipleship opportunities. And so we do our family nights on Friday evenings, kids do homework, parents cook, we all sit and eat together afterwards. And so Core Youth will still happen. We're looking at ways that we can engage in different people, because Tuesday evenings might not work for everybody, but how can Tuesdays be a place where people connect and really go deep in their discipleship? We already have quite an active communication platform with each other, so that's been really nice, sharing videos and pictures. And we did like devotions all the way through Holy Week. People have been engaging with the Sunday morning services overall. It's one time that we gather as one church, and not just in our separate locations, but actually one church gathered. And so it's been really beautiful, and that will kind of be our weekly rhythm going forward. So discipleship stuff, as in the very explicit discipleship, will be Sundays and Tuesdays, and then everything else in the week we will use as, we say that they're touch points, but they're actually like lifelines for us and for people, really. And the numbers at those things have always been could seem impressive, but to us, to think of every life behind that figure is just really exciting. So I love now that, like, at our light parties, which is an annual rhythm thing for us, I can say, why do we have a light party? And our core kids will say, because Jesus is light of the world. And they just know that. Like, it changes the sphere of stuff. So, so Tuesdays and Sundays mainly, and then all of our activities in the week will continue.
Amazing. And like, that's just, again, reminded me, like, Crosby, definitely more than Ashby Road as a location, is like a massive community partnership thing.
Yeah.
So everything you do is kind of always in partnership with someone, like council, schools, other churches, like literally meeting in a building that is connected to a different church. And that can be challenging because you have to build the relationship stuff. But that's the 8 years that you've been doing. But the reward is so massive, isn't it? Because of the partnership element. Like,
absolutely,
we get to, one of the things that we really try and do as Connect Church is that, we're all about kingdom. And so, like, if we can partner with something and it's never under our name or under our banner, but it's for the community of Crosby, then we partner with it. And I think Connect Church Crosby really is just another piece in that partnership puzzle, which is not trying to, like, overtake any of that stuff or slip it under our banner or anything like that. Quite the opposite. I think Crosby is a great kind of model for us so I'm thinking now from Ashby Road, like a more traditional church, a reminder to us that we need to actually be better at that for Ashby Road. Partnering with the people who are already doing amazing stuff. And maybe post-lockdown, some of that will be realising the people who kept doing amazing stuff while church buildings were closed and mostly closed. So that'd be interesting. I'm gonna totally throw you under the bus now.
Oh no, that's annoying.
I'm going to ask you just to share, like, if thinking about all of Connect Church, if there's like one verse or kind of story or scripture or something that kind of is really on your heart or that kind of summarizes some of what you're saying. And then secondly, like, if this is a big question, isn't it? If in the next season for us, if God could answer one prayer about Connect Church for you, what would it be? So one verse and kind of one prayer.
So no, that's fine. I think there have been a couple of verses over the years. Something that I actually was last week, I think it was, woke up in the middle of the night and just had this going round and round and round in my head. So I'll share. But the first thing would be, we've spoken a lot about this. See, I am doing a new thing, and I think. I mean, if there was ever a time that something new was going on, it's right now. But to emerge from this place, I think there's a new thing within what we think is the new thing. And so we need to really be praying into that and considering that as a church, actually, which I think is exciting. And I think God uses these pauses, let's call it a pause, these global pandemics as a time, actually, to really, like, get us thinking differently about some stuff. So let's take what is good out of what could be seen as something really negative and confining and restricting, actually, to fling the doors open and say, what has God got for us? But just reminded, we've used this so much. So for the people who are part of our church, it will be nothing new, but the Jeremiah 29 stuff, actually, if we were ever feeling what it felt like to be locked in, locked down, and cast out of what is normal to us, it would be now. But just that, even in these times, what does it mean for us to plan forward, to build things, to establish ourselves? We bought our house based on this verse. Like, what does it mean to really hunker down and say, we're here and we're not going anywhere? I was listening to something the other day and just reminded, actually, so much of the stuff that, I guess, the glory stuff that Crosby gets known for because of what we do, actually, all of that, most of it, just came from us just standing and not moving. And so what does it mean for the church to stand when everything else is falling or closing or stopping? That is part of that's the win. Sometimes the win is just staying and just not bailing and not leaving and not letting people down, not being the thing that was there in the good time and then disappearing when it gets rough. And I think even after this, times will be tough. And so how do we still establish ourselves, root ourselves, plant gardens that others will flourish from, that others will be able to enjoy the produce from? How can we use this season to really sow seed into our life and our soul and our heart, that the harvest will be far greater than us? Actually, how do we do that, and how do we still want to set our place up to win? Because I think that's where it starts. When the win is not about you, when it's not about the church, when it's not, Jesus doesn't need us to defend him. He doesn't need us to set him up to win. He will do that. His spirit will move. We just have to be loose-handed with everything that we have. And so how can, in this season and going into Connect next season, how can we be about that? Not looking for our win, but actually setting others up to win and knowing that Jesus gets the glory, even if it doesn't look the way that we wanted it to, because the church is always meant to be there to stay, to stand, to win the battle by that, but also to be the place that I guess that's how it becomes the institution that everyone depends on when things go wrong, because it is always there. It doesn't always mean it has to look like it always has, though. And so I think, yeah, what does it mean for us to start planting and building and growing in this season? And what will that mean for the next? We have to really build future-minded, I think. And even if that means we stay in exile for a long time, then we know that what we've done for the Lord. And he chooses to have us help. He doesn't need to have us help. And so just to remember the privilege that it is to sit with the person on the roadside, or to wave at your neighbour, or to sow, knowing that you might and the church might never ever reap the reward from that thing.
Absolutely. And one of the things, so in that Jeremiah passage, it's God says, I'm going to take you out of this in 70 years, and in that time do this. And so hopefully we'll not be locked down for 70 years. But,
I need a haircut before then, Tom.
It feels a bit like it at the moment. But it's just that, again, that reminder, like, and maybe for those who are part of so some people watching this won't be part of what will be Connect Church, but some will. And maybe that's a reminder to us of, like, we're making decisions and doing things now that actually probably don't make sense right now. Yeah. But they will in 70 years or whatever that looks like. And like you're absolutely right. Like, we are having to do stuff now, thinking about, well, does that work when we've got 6 locations? We have to ask those questions all the time when we're planning stuff. And today, like, looking at bank accounts, like, does that work when it's all those things that we're having to think completely different? And I think you're right. One thing for us as church, those of us who are part of the church, one thing we need to do in this season is be preparing our minds for different post-lockdown, because it's going to be different anyway, but it's going to be double different for us. So I think that's really helpful. So what's you may have weaved it into that, but your one prayer, God's going to answer one prayer, he'll answer more. But if he could answer one right now, what would it be?
There's 2, but the first would be that in this season,
one of our values is for Connect is that God is able to do more than we could ask. So you can have 2 and multiply. All the values in one. Go for it.
So I think the first thing for me would just be that when that in this season we would start to open our hands to release the things that we don't need, but also to remember that we need to make a way for other people. So that's been one of mine and Paul's particular prayers in this season, has been, how are we able to do everything that we can? That means, and I often say this and it's quite morbid, but like, if we die tomorrow, the kingdom of God is still established through this thing. Who are we bringing on? Who are we sharing with? Who are our Timothys? Who are we bringing through? So it would be that everyone would find the person that we can say to them, we can speak over their life. You have value and you can add value, and this is what it means and looks like. So I think that would be a big prayer for us. And the other would just be, where next? Where next, God? What's our next step on this journey? What does it mean to multiply again in every area? And would you cut off us anything that is going to hinder that or stop that, because we want to be a place that multiplies. So yeah, they would be my two things, I think.
They're allowed for sure. So I'm very aware that you are the kind of often the name on the kind of Crosby stuff. Like you say, people jokingly call you Vicar of Crosby all the time. I'm very aware that that's definitely a Paul thing as well.
Absolutely.
It's very much a key person in the community, but also for us as a church. But also I'm aware there's a whole team of people growing as well, of people who are doing what you said before, which is selling up and moving in. We've had literal, church members buy houses or in the process of buying houses in Crosby for that very reason. So this is massively a team effort, and that's a big part of what we want Connect to be. But you do play a key role in that. So bless you. You do an amazing job connecting people in Crosby and connecting people to their purpose, connecting people to the wider community, partnering, all those things that you've dropped in today, little principles and snippets of wisdom. You guys live it out all the time, which is amazing.
Thank you.
I'm going to ignore you for a second, though. If you want to know any more about Connect Church Crosby, if you've watched this and you've never heard anything about that, then Fiona would be very happy for you to message her to find out more. If you're not even part of our community, but you want to know more about like planting or the vision we've got, how that's going to work, we'd love to help and chat. We don't know the answers, so we probably learn from you. Connect Church is very much an experiment for us, but it's a journey we're trying to take as we would say, family on mission. So if you want to be part of the extended family on that mission, we would love you to join us. I'm going to try and do a couple more of these kind of chats with some different leaders and people who are going to play a key role in Connect Church, just so we can keep building an understanding that some of those people are. We are blessed in our church. We're just the most amazing people who live sacrificially and do awesome stuff. So we want to introduce you to some of them, basically. But hopefully this has been helpful, and we'll see you again for another Connect Church conversation very soon.